Hello and welcome to The Ripple Impact, the podcast where we dive into those fascinating small moments, big decisions and unexpected ripples that create waves of change in brands, businesses, leadership and in life. I'm Laura Barber, founder of The Ripple Impact and a global brand strategist who spent over 20 years inside some of the global giants like Coca-Cola and PepsiCo. I now work with founders and brand leaders on strategy, positioning and storytelling, helping leaders turn human stories into brand growth. Each week, I sit down with bold thinkers, founders, and what we call wave maker guests to explore the ripple moments that have shaped their journeys and the lessons you can take to transform your own brand and your business. Today, I am so excited to have Cindy Gallop with us, a force of nature in advertising, a founder, a challenger of norms, and someone who has spent her career pushing the industry to confront the truths they often avoid. From leading global advertising at BBH to founding Make Love Not Porn, Cindy has consistently asked the questions others shy away from, and in doing so, created ripples that go way beyond business into culture itself. Cindy, welcome to the show. It is such a pleasure to have you here with us today.
Thank you, Laura. Great to be here.
Amazing to have you here on the show. It's so fantastic. From following your career to seeing what you're doing now and challenging the industry and culture, it's incredible to have you on the show.
Pleasure.
We love at The Ripple Impact to wind back and get a little inside track on people's careers, what has brought them to where they are today. And you've had a very illustrious, incredible career in advertising. What made you step into advertising in the first place? Wind us back to the beginning and the big, what we call ripple impact moments in people's lives. What took you down that path and why did you ultimately get to where you are today?
Sure. So, the key thing, Laura, is that everything in my life and career has happened by complete and total accident. I've never consciously intentionally planned anything. So I ultimately got into advertising because I read English literature at Somerville College, Oxford, and I fell madly in love with theatre at Oxford. The background to that is that I'm half English, half Chinese. My father was English, my mother was Malaysian Chinese. I was born in the UK, but when I was 6, we moved to Brunei in Borneo. So I grew up in Asia, and I did not encounter theatre really in any form in Asia because the arts manifest in different ways. And I went to boarding school in the UK, but at a very stuffy, old-fashioned place called Wadhurst College for Young Ladies, where we had drama classes, but they were terrible. And so when I arrived at Oxford, I just fell madly in love with the student drama scene, which is, there's a very thriving, student drama scene in Oxford. So I became president of Somerville Drama Society. I wrote, acted, directed, stage managed, did all the things, and basically decided, as a teenager, that all I want to do is work in theatre the rest of my life. But I knew I wasn't good enough to be an actress or director like many of my friends at Oxford wanted to. And by the way, a number of them went on to be quite high-profile names in that context. But I used to draw a lot when I was younger. And so my friends at Oxford pulled me into designing theatre posters for them. And from there, they pulled me into promoting their shows. And I really enjoyed doing that. So I became a theatre publicity and marketing officer at theatres around the UK. I started off as assistant to the director of the Sherman Theatre, Cardiff, which was a temporary position. His assistant was on parental leave. Then I went to the Yvonne Arnaud Theatre, Guildford, as their marketing officer. And then I went to the Everyman Theatre, Liverpool, as their marketing officer. And it was while I was in Liverpool that I began to get completely fed up with working 24/7 and earning chicken feed, which is what the was. And just as I was getting somewhat disillusioned, part of my job promoting the theatre was giving talks to groups. So I gave a talk to a group of women on Merseyside. And afterwards, one of them came up to me and she said, "Young lady, you could sell a fridge to an Eskimo." The universe telling me something. Time to start and go into advertising. And so I did.
Wow, amazing. I love that it starts with just a passion for theatre and then you as you said, it's a serendipitous path rather than something that you planned. So a very illustrious career at BBH. What were the big kind of standout moments in your career? Because such an incredible career and renowned for the world of advertising. Were there some big moments that really stand out in your mind that were pivotal in your career?
Well, I'll tell you what stands out in my mind now, Laura, because so I started my advertising career at an agency called Ted Bates, which no longer exists. Went on to J. Walter Thompson, then to Gold Greeny's Trot GGT, another agency that no longer exists, and then fetched up at BBH, where I proceeded to spend 16 years. And what I would say is that my so-called successful advertising career was entirely due to luck. I was very, very lucky. I was lucky on two fronts. The first is I was lucky because I was never sexually harassed in a way that ended my career. And I was absolutely sexually harassed, but not as happens to so many women in our industry, where you're harassed, you protest, you are retaliated against, you are managed out of the agency, and you are managed out of the industry. And the fact that didn't happen to me was sheer luck. And the second reason I was very lucky was I can count on the fingers of one hand the number of female bosses I had in my advertising career, too. I virtually always worked for men, but at all the agencies I worked at, I was lucky enough to work for men who saw my potential before I did, wanted me to succeed, championed me, and gave me every opportunity to do so. And that is not the experience of most women in our industry. So those are the two things that stand out to me about, as I say, my so-called successful advertising career.
Yeah. Wow. And so you must have witnessed a lot of this then.
Well, not at the time, because, I'm regularly asked in interviews, so Cindy, what sexism did you encounter coming up through the ranks as a young woman in advertising? And my response is always, a fish does not know what water is. It was all around me, going into advertising in the late 80s, and I didn't see it because it was the norm.
Yeah.
So, I really did not see everything that I see now much more clear-sightedly out of the corporate advertising world and with the benefit of hindsight.
Yeah. Wow. And I'm going to jump forward to then jump back. So what was it that created the idea for Make Love Not Porn? Because you've talked about a lot of injustice there. You've talked about sexual harassment in the workplace. You've talked a lot about challenges for women. Was it some of this, that injustice and the things that you've seen, that created this need to create such an incredible platform? Like, what was it that took you from advertising into this world? Because on paper, it doesn't look like a normal route, does it? So what was it that inspired it?
And no, it was none of that at all. So I turned 45 in 2005, and I had my very own personal midlife crisis, in the sense that I'd always thought of 45 as kind of a midlife point. Obviously, by the way, in the happy assumption one lives to be 90, fingers crossed. But in the couple of years running up to my 45th birthday, I'd always gone, on one's 45th birthday is when you should pause, take stock, reflect and review. Where have I been? Where am I going? So on February 1, 2005, I duly did that. And that was the point at which I went, oh my God, I've just worked 16 years for the same advertising agency. And by the way, obviously a wonderful advertising agency. I cannot say enough nice things about BBH. I'd worked for them in London. I'd helped to start up the Asia Pacific office in Singapore. I'd started up their American office here in New York. But I went, wow, it might be time to do something different. And then the problem was I hadn't the faintest idea what, because, I'd said to people along the way, I don't plan to work in advertising forever. I don't plan to work. But our industry is a very good one to work in, to find out what you want to do next, because you come into contact with so many different industry sectors, companies, brands, people. So I guess I'd always thought that one day my next big thing would bubble up from the ether. And there I was at the age of 45, and it hadn't. So vast amounts of thought and angsting ensued. And eventually I went, if I want to review every possible option open to me of what is effectively the second half of my life, maybe the best thing to do is to put myself on the market very publicly and go, okay, guys, here I am. What do you got? And see what happens. So I took a massive leap into the unknown. I resigned as chairman of BBH New York in the summer of 2005 without a job to go to. And honestly, it was the best bloody thing that I ever did in my life, because I am evangelical about working for yourself.
Yeah.
Too many people make the mistake of thinking that a job is the safe option. It's not. Because in a job, you are at the complete mercy of management changes, industry downturns, marketplace dynamics. I always say to people, whose hands would you rather place your future in? Those of a large corporate entity who at the end of the day doesn't give a shit about you, or someone who will always have your best interests at heart, i.e. you.
You.
And so I
Yeah.
began working for myself as a consultant, as a public speaker. And Make Love Not Porn, like everything else, was a complete and total accident. So it came about because I date younger men, and I will just contextualize for our audience that I am someone who has never, ever wanted to be married. I have never wanted children. Very glad I always knew that, as opposed to finding out the hard way by actually having them. I adore being single. I'm not a relationship person. I cannot wait to die alone. And I date younger men casually and recreationally for sex. And I'm deliberately very public about all of that because we don't have enough role models in our society, for women and for men, by the way, that demonstrate you can live your life very differently to the way that you are meant to and still be amazingly happy. And I'm one of the happiest people I know. So there I was dating younger men 18, 19 years ago, when I began realizing through having sex with younger men that I was encountering an issue that would never have crossed my mind if I had not encountered it so very intimately and personally. I realized I was experiencing what happens when two things converge. I was encountering what happens when today's total freedom of access to hardcore porn online meets our society's equally total reluctance to talk openly and honestly about sex. It's when those two factors converge that porn becomes sex education by default in not a good way.
Yeah.
So I found myself encountering a number of sexual behavioral memes in bed. I went, whoa, I know where that behavior is coming from. I thought, gosh, if I'm experiencing this, other people must be as well. I didn't know that. 13 years ago, nobody was talking about this. No one was writing about it. This was me in isolation as a naturally action-oriented person going, I'm going to do something about this. So 17 years ago, purely at the time as a little side venture, I put up on no money a tiny clunky website at makelovenotporn.com that in its original version was kind of a public service announcement. The construct was porn world versus real world. Here's what happens in the porn world. Here's what really happens in the real world. I launched Make Love Not Porn at the TED conference in February 2009. I became the only TED speaker to utter the words, come on my face, on the TED stage several times. My talk went viral as a result, and it drove this extraordinary global response to my tiny website that I had never anticipated. Thousands of people wrote to me from all around the world, young and old, male and female, straight and gay, pouring their hearts out, telling me things about their sex lives and their porn watching habits they'd never told anyone before. And I realized I'd uncovered a huge global social issue. And so that was the point at which I went, oh my God, I now have a personal responsibility. I have to take Make Love Not Porn forwards in a way that will make it much more far-reaching, helpful, and effective. And so I turned it into a business designed to do good and make money simultaneously, which is what I believe all businesses of the future should be. I turned Make Love Not Porn into what we are today, which is the world's first and only user-generated, importantly 100% human-curated social sex video sharing platform. So we're kind of what Facebook would be if it allowed you to openly, healthily, socially, sexually self-express, which it clearly does not. Porn is the Hollywood blockbuster movie. Make Love Not Porn is the badly needed documentary. We are a unique window onto the funny, messy, loving, wonderful sex we all have in the real world. And what we're doing is we are socializing, normalizing, destigmatizing sex, bringing it out of the shadows into the sunlight to promote consent, communication, good sexual values and behavior. We are literally sex education through real world demonstration.
Just a round of applause for that moment and joining the people that did a standing ovation at the TED Talk. And such incredible, as you said, to create something as a public service announcement and then have this cultural wave of communication come to you. And you know you've hit something so powerful and so true and so needed and so human when you get that level of response Were you completely blown away by that? Did your website completely crash because of the volume of people?
It did. It literally crashed during my talk at TED, and my team had to work really hard to get it back up. And yes, it was, this avalanche of emails that just arrived day after day after day was overwhelming. And you have to bear in mind, Laura, that 17 years ago the world was in a very different place. I was the very first person to publicly identify what everybody now cannot turn around without falling over another media headline about. And people wrote reams. They wrote these massive long emails, all ages, young teens, older people. I remember one man wrote this massively long email about his own experiences. And they said it at the end of it, he said, "It is an indictment of our society that I am writing all of this at the age of 38 to a woman I've never met, simply because she's the only person I've ever heard speak honestly about this." So my talk really landed at a time when nobody was talking about or even had really understood the impact of porn as default sex ed when we are not open and honest about sex in the real world.
And have you seen a shift? Because it still feels that it's such a massive taboo. I mean, you face daily challenges on website access, funding, banks, LinkedIn algorithms. Let's see what happens when we post this. But you face daily challenges still because it's still taboo. It's still uncomfortable for people. It's still provocative. It's still seen as disruptive. How do you even face into that? Because it must be a daily challenge for you. I mean, I see your posts, I see your challenges, I see the rally cries, I see what you're now doing going into government and the schemes you're doing through education. How do you even have the energy to face into that on a daily basis? Because as you said, it's changed since 17 years ago, but we're still not probably where we should be.
So just for the benefit of our listeners, Laura's referencing the fact that I and my tiny team have fought an enormous battle every single day for the past 17 years, not even to grow Make Love Not Porn, just to keep it alive. Basically because every piece of business infrastructure other tech startups take for granted, we can't, the small print always says no adult content. And it's all pervasive across every area of the business, as you referenced. And my single biggest barrier is that investors will not fund us because all of those obstacles could be overcome with enough money. And first of all, no, I have not seen sufficient change in 17 years. I've spent 17 years parallel pathing two things, working to build Make Love Not Porn and working to change the culture and business context around it. And that has been a massively uphill battle, basically because of the thing I designed Make Love Not Porn to do, which is take the shame, guilt, and embarrassment out of sex. That is so embedded in our society that, fundamentally, all of our obstacles boil down to the social dynamic I call fear of what other people will think, which operates with sex, unlike any other area. So, I'm a great believer that you don't wait for things to change, you make them change. So I have kept going all of these years, really for two reasons. The first is, as a unique business, Make Love Not Porn has a unique capability. We have the power to change people's sexual attitudes and behavior for the better in a way that nothing else can. So in the past 17 years, even in our tiny bootstrapping have no money incarnation, we have taught countless young people that porn is not sex in the real world. We've saved numerous marriages and relationships. That's actually how people write to us. You saved my marriage. Parents have been buying their teenage children subscriptions. They tell us, I want my kids to see what happy, healthy, loving sex relationships actually look like. And as with any disruptive technology, use cases emerge the founder never dreamt of. So I was blown away when we began hearing, as we do regularly, from survivors of rape, sexual assault, sexual abuse. We hear from female survivors, male survivors, trans non-binary survivors. They tell us that Make Love Not Porn help them reclaim their bodies. We help them feel able to be sexual again post-trauma, in a situation where porn is way too triggering. And it's not just people who watch our videos. We have a number of contributors whom we call out Make Love Not Porn stars, who tell us being able to share themselves sexually in a completely safe and trustworthy space has helped them process and heal from sexual trauma. As a use case, I never even thought of when I came up with this idea, obviously. So reason number one, I know that what I'm doing has groundbreaking impact and would have even more groundbreaking impact funded to scale. And the second thing that keeps me going is the dynamic that I characterize as I'm going to fucking well show you. Tell me it can't be done? I'm going to fucking well show you. Put a bar in my path, I'm going to fucking well show you. I take all of that daily demoralization, discouragement, and depression and channel it into motivation because I have to. So I will tell you, Laura, that I am feeling pretty encouraged right now. That's because I believe that when you have a truly world-changing startup, you have to change the world to fit it, not the other way around. And so I have a product roadmap to Make Love Not Porn that is focused on infrastructure. If the ecosystem that's meant to enable you to scale and thrive shuts you out, build your own ecosystem. We have just released the first of those infrastructure products, which is an idea that I had 11 years ago now. And I had this idea 11 years ago because parents and teachers began reaching out to me from day one of Make Love Not Porn, begging me to build the 0 to 18 and beyond sex education expansion of what we do. So 11 years ago, I had the idea for makelovenotporn.academy, which is a global aggregator hub for the best of the world's sex education content. It's already out there, but it's been blocked, censored, and deplatformed everywhere. Our mission at Make Love Not Porn Academy is to organize the world's sex education information to make it universally accessible and useful. That is a deliberate paraphrase of Google's original mission statement. Organize the world's information to make it universally accessible and useful. Because today in this area, Google isn't doing that. The algorithm itself is censoring, it's biased. Parents and teachers tell me they cannot find the information they need when they search for it. And so we are building the Google of sex ed. And it's taken 11 years because that is how long investors have refused to fund a desperately needed sex education ecosystem. So I managed to raise a small amount of equity crowdfunding last year. I landed very far short of my target on WeFunder because, again, people are funny about sex. Even within my own network, friends would not contribute. And by the way, the minimum investment was $100, 70 quid. So very affordable. I managed to raise a small amount, and that enabled us to design and build makelovenotporn.academy, which I'm very excited to say we took live in very early stage beta just 14 weeks ago. And so I want to encourage everyone listening, go to makelovenotporn.academy. We are real world testing it while we load educators and content. So it's still, pretty sparse. But you're able to see, how it works. And also, I'd love your support because the Academy is free for everyone to access. And like Make Love Not Porn, we operate a 100% human curation model. There is no AI involved in this at all. In terms of the curation. So on Make Love Not Porn, there's no self-publishing. Our curation team watches every single video submitted from beginning to end before we approve or reject and we publish it. Every member profile post, every comment in every video, we approve, reject, we publish. Are designed to make Love Porn be the safest place on the internet. Similarly, on Make Love Not Porn Academy, we vet every educator and every piece of work they share. And our curation criteria are very broad. On the Academy, your work has to be educational, fact-based, and non-judgmental. Then we'll take it. So the Academy is 100% human curated. It is also 100% safe for work. There's nothing explicit. We designed this because, to give you just one example of, everything I hear and have heard for 17 years. I have a friend who's a mother, and as you have to these days, she monitors her kids' browsing history. And, this happened a few years ago. Her son was 8 years old at the time, and she saw to a horror that on the family computer, he had Googled sex for children. So she freaked out, but didn't need calm, sat him down. Darling, I happen to see, talk me through why. Yeah. And Laura, this anecdote is adorable and horrifying in equal measure because her son wanted to learn about sex. He was a child. He knew he was a child. He wanted to learn about sex in a child-approved,
in a childlike way.
Yeah. Sweetly, innocently Googled sex for children. You can imagine what came back utterly traumatized. And so we designed Make Love Not Porn Academy so an 8-year-old boy can enter his age on the homepage. He would only be served age-appropriate content. So the Academy is completely safe for anybody of any age to access. And by the way, the only risk you have is that a 12-year-old boy reading about menopause gets bored. But on the other hand, he's welcome to read about menopause because then he'll realize what's going on with mom.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's free for everyone to access, but we operate the museum model. We have a membership program. So if you believe in what we're doing, you can support our work and help fund our ability to operate by taking out a membership. We have several different tiers of membership based on what you can afford. So everybody listening, please go to matelove.porn.academy and become a member to support us. But I, as I said, Laura, am very encouraged because we are getting a terrific response already, precisely because people are now very clear-sighted about what children are encountering. When the Epstein files have laid what's in them bare to everybody, when you cannot escape the headlines about Elon Musk's Grok, sexualizing deep fakes of girls and women, I think there's a growing understanding that we cannot go on operating around sex the way we always have. So what's also encouraging me is that, I am working with the brilliant MP, Samantha Niblett, who spearheads Labour's Women in Tech initiative, who cited us in Parliament back in January as the lifelong sex education solution to online digital harms. Because as I've been saying for years, unfortunately, tech legislation doesn't work. Mandated guardrails don't work. Giant tech has zero interest in implementing any of that to protect children, young people, anybody. The only solution that works is preemptive. I've said for years to parents, the way to preserve your child's innocence as long as possible is early childhood sex education, age appropriately, as early as possible and ongoing. That's what keeps children innocent, not the other way around. So Samantha and I are collaborating on initiative. Last week, she applied to do a backbench debate around sex education and what we need in the UK as a country, as a society. Her proposal's been accepted, and she wants to do that debate in the main chamber, for which there's a rather longer queue. And so it will probably happen after summer. But in the meantime, she and I are going to be launching something very exciting. And watch this space, because we're going to be doing that in the very near future, which is a campaign to change all of this in the UK. Our theme line for our campaign, riffing off a very well-known cultural saying, is "Yes, sex, please, we're British." Because
Fantastic.
because we have the opportunity in the UK to set the agenda for the rest of the world by pioneering an understanding of the importance of lifelong sex education and how we make that happen in a way that every other country can follow, because every other country needs this too. Everything we're talking about is global. And so, it's wonderful to have Samantha's support and belief. And that is what makes me more optimistic about the future than I've felt in quite a while.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, so much to unpack, from everything from giving people a safe space to talk about sex where they want to, they need to, they have that desire, they have that need to just discuss something that is so normal, so natural, so human, from the recovery from people who have gone through trauma to have a safe space to heal and to heal those wounds. I just think, and through to education, what you're doing is just so incredible and so life-changing. And we talk a lot in this podcast about the ripple impact and the ripple impact into brands, into businesses, but this is ripple impact into culture, which is so incredible and so needed. And the deepest thanks, because whether you are a teacher, whether you are a parent, whether you are a carer, whether you're a stepmom like I am, these are the conversations that need to be had so desperately, and to be taking it into government is just incredible, so that we can systematically change and elevate the conversation around this. So the deepest applause. Like, I just think you are just an inspiration, Cindy. And as we talked about earlier, the battles that you face, to be able to even just to be heard about and to get through all the algorithms and the systems and the repression of this communication is one thing, but you're tackling such a meaty topic that is so desperately needed. I mean, I don't know how much it means, but the deepest thanks, at least for me, because you are changing culture, and that is so inspiring. Please, everyone, please go on to Make Love Not Porn and matelove.porn.academy to see the incredible work that Cindy is doing. And if we can change the next generation of sex education, like, unbelievable impact on the world.
Thank you so much, Laura. And actually, you've just reminded me, I just want to make our listeners aware of one practical fact, which again will give you some idea of the systemic and massive obstacles that I face, which is please, when you go to makelovenotporn.com, makelovenotporn.academy, you may have to go into your Wi-Fi provider and unset the default settings, which will be set to safe. Because I've heard, and I've heard this especially from people in the UK,
Mm.
one told me that I was on Davina McCall's podcast. Actually, last year, that brought me back for another episode this year. And one woman told me that immediately following, she searched for makelovenotporn.com on her phone and couldn't find it. She could find me, she could find talks I was giving about it, she couldn't find the actual website. And she searched on a laptop as well. And we worked out that she had, I think, Sky Wi-Fi, and the default setting filtered out anything adult.
Yeah.
I've since heard again from people in the UK that Virgin Wi-Fi does the same thing. And so I really want you to check us out. So please, if you have any trouble at all finding makelovenotporn.com or makelovenotporn.academy, please be aware that you may need to go into your Wi-Fi settings and make sure that they're set to allow you to access them.
Yeah, amazing. When we put all the links on the descriptions for the podcast, for the YouTube channel, etc., we will remind people to check the save function on their systems.
Fantastic.
This is the challenge, isn't it? Because the tech giants are blocking it at every way, whether that's the systems, the safety, the connection, the algorithms. I mean, it's a minefield in terms of how you get this through, let alone investment. I think you need to set up your own banking system, Cindy, as well.
Well, funny you should say that, Laura, because I'm also working on my next product, which is a fintech product. Because one of my two biggest pain points on Make Love Not Porn is payments. PayPal will not work with adult content. Stripe, the predominant ability to take credit cards online, won't. Mainstream fintech won't. I have to work with the murky subculture of adult-friendly payment processors who, because anybody adult has nowhere else to go, charge extortionate fees. I pay out 12% of my revenue every month in payment processing fees alone. For mainstream of 3% or less. So for years, I've said publicly, I want to build a Stripe of sex tech. Because the first payment processor that welcomes legal, ethical, transparent vendors like mine cleans up. There is opportunity in so-called restricted business, not just adult and sex tech, but cannabis, psychedelics. And so I, for years, have been looking for the right partner. I found it. We are working on integrating them into Make Love Not Porn at the moment for us to be able to take payments, make payouts. We're going to proof test this on our own platform. Once it's working the way we want it to, we're going to turn into a standalone product everybody else can use. And I'm calling that product block free because I want to free us all from the blocks of fintech injustice. You can find a holding page for it at blockfree.us. I like the rallying cry of block free us. And that's something I'm already talking to investors about. I do find that investors get that idea very easily.
Yeah, fantastic. Having to take on the system at every single angle, aren't you? Not just the communication, but the banking, the processing, the access. Wow. What are the other big frustrations that you are seeing and facing on a daily basis?
Well, what is frustrating too, Laura, is that everything I'm talking about applies not just to us, but also to any female lens sexual health and wellness company and to women's health generally. So, in a world where every giant tech platform was founded by young white men, there is the most appalling algorithmic censorship of women's health going on generally. It's absolutely fine to post anything that talks about penis and testicles. Talk about vagina and vulva, and your post is instantly flagged, suspended, deleted, etc., etc. So, I'm happy to report that there are many women battling this on our behalf. Here in the UK, there is the wonderful censorship, started by Anna O'Sullivan and Cleo Wood, which is fighting to end censorship of women's health. In the US, where I'm based, we have the wonderful Jackie Rotman and her nonprofit Center for Intimacy Justice, which does the same thing over here in America. And so there are a very large number of women absolutely tackling this from every possible angle. And my My third infrastructure product is an ad tech product that will enable us all to advertise. And again, this is a massive growth inhibitor. Make Love Not Porn is banned from advertising anywhere. We cannot advertise on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, Google, YouTube, Reddit. Look at what's on Reddit. Reddit bans us for advertising. Look at what's on Twitter X. They ban us from advertising. And as I said earlier, it's not just us. It's menstruation ventures, menopause ventures, fertility ventures. So I have on my product roadmap for when I can get to it, and there's only one of me and I'm doing all these things, but I want to use my background of 40 years working in advertising to build an ad tech product that will enable all of us to advertise. And trust me, that is a massive revenue generator. So look out for that in due course.
Oh, incredible. Because I have lots of friends and fellow founders that have LGBTQ plus businesses as well. And it's the same situation here where blocking of communication, blocking of posting, it's not even advertising. It's even things on LinkedIn and Facebook where any single word that gets anywhere close, blocked. Deleted,
and in fact, Laura, infuriatingly, we just a few weeks ago lost our Make Love Not Porn Instagram account. We had a deliberate safe for work only posting policy, and they just took it down for no reason. That was, in a world where we're banned from advertising, that was incredibly important to us as a way of sending people to Make Love Not Porn. So it is very, very frustrating.
That's incredibly frustrating. You need to do another TED Talk about the Academy because no one can stop a TED Talk.
But they will never let me on that stage again. I can guarantee that.
Really?
Yeah, really.
Despite the standing ovation and the millions of views? Why is that?
Very frustratingly, Laura, and again, remember, this was 17 years ago. Chris Anderson, the curator of TED, he said to me, Cindy, we're not going to post your talk on TED.com because TED.com is visited by parents and kids and teachers with kids. In other words, my target audience. He said, we'll post it on YouTube and we'll link to it. So we can say it's not on TED.com. Crying out loud. And so my talk was not on TED.com for many years. I regularly asked for it to be. A few years back, they did finally put on TED.com, but that is why they've never promoted it. That is why it has a couple of million views, but that is nothing compared to the talks that were allowed to live on the TED homepage that were actively promoted by TED. So now I'm never getting back on that stage.
Wow. We need to do a whole global petition to get Cindy Gallop back on the TED stage to talk about the Academy, because that is absolutely bonkers to me, because the amount of topics that get to this TED stage and are promoted on their platform that...
Yeah, well, and I'll tell you what's interesting too, Laura, is that Chris Anderson has now ceded leadership of TED to Sal Khan. Sal Khan is the founder of Khan Academy, the online tutoring platform. And when I came up with the idea for Make Love Not Porn Academy 11 years ago, I've always described it as the Khan Academy of sex education, because Khan Academy tutors on every other topic under the sun except this one. Educational technology, EdTech, is exploding as a sector, but not in this area. And so, I would love a warm intro to Sal Khan, because I would hope that he would see the benefit of Make Love Not Porn Academy, given the work he's done with Khan Academy.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is as well, it's not the organizations, systems, governments, curriculum. Sex education is taught at school. So it's not like it's completely blanket, not discussed. It is taught in schools. So why on earth wouldn't they want to do that in a way that is so healthy? It just blows my mind completely, because I wind back to, I'm 45 this year, so I'm hitting my 45 moment. So I'll call you in 6 months and see what's changed. But I try to wind my brain back to sex education at school, but it was absolutely diabolical. But it's happening.
Yep.
It's happening.
But in a very unhelpful way. And so, for our listeners, when you go to the homepage of MakeLoveNotPorn.academy, you will see 2 videos by me on the homepage, because parents have been writing me for 17 years, and so I've encapsulated my own advice. In one video is called How to Talk to Very Young Children About Sex, Porn and Love, and the other is How to Talk to Teenagers About Sex, Porn and Love. They're both very short videos, and if you watch those, you will see how easy it is to make the right kind of sex education really simple, so easy for parents to actually undertake in a way that, again, because of the shame, guilt, and embarrassment we've imbued sex with, parents have no idea where to start. Also, we are aggregating the best of the world's sex education content precisely because in 17 years, I've built up a huge network all around the world of brilliant sex educator friends who face all the same problems I do. Their content gets blocked on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Their accounts get suspended. They can't even make a living doing what they do, and it's enormously valuable work. And so people don't realize how much innovative, creative approaches to sex education are out there. Including, by the way, we have a ton of Gen Z sex educators who want to help their own generation grow up differently. So, the Academy is utterly unique in making all of this easily searchable by age appropriateness, cultural sensibility, personal comfort level. It's also unique because we don't censor. So I've said to our educators, this is a platform where you never have to spell sex, S-E-G-G-S again. When you look at the ridiculous games people play to try and beat the algorithm, and by the way, at a broader level, this is being unconsciously internalized. That is inhibiting the ability to talk frankly. I go on the Academy, this is where you can call things by their proper names. Say whatever you want in a way that ensures that accurate information gets disseminated. Because not only is it not accessible enough, what there is has to obfuscate what it's all about with asterisks and SCGGS, all that ridiculousness, and that's not helping anybody.
No, absolutely. If we're going to have conversations about this, we need the language to be able to have the conversation in the first place and have the spaces and the safety and the permission to have those deep conversations. So just incredible. Oh, Cindy, I could talk to you for hours. What would be your rally cry? What would be your ask of anybody listening? Of course, please go on to makelovenotporn.com and please go on to Make Love Not Porn Academy. But what would your rally cry be to people?
Well, honestly, my rallying cry would be what I've been saying for years. When you look around you and you despair at what you're seeing in the world, the solution to everything is fund female founders. Only 1.7% of all venture capital last year went to female founders. And that is why we have still not seen how much safer, better, happier, and by the way, way more lucrative the future of the internet and technology could be when it's designed and built through the female lens. And these are the two key words: at scale. And so in addition to, I need everybody listening to go to Make Love Not Porn, take out a subscription, go to Make Love Not Porn Academy, become a member, because I struggle for financial support from anywhere else. And literally, Laura, every month it's a battle to make payroll and not have to shut Make Love Not Porn the Academy down. I mean, that is literally my situation, the one I've been fighting for 17 years. But also, anything you see founded by a female founder, think how you can support her in the same way. Because the white men running the giant venture capital funds will not fund us. And honestly, if there's one depressing thing the Epstein files show, Make Love Not Porn's mission ultimately is to help end rape culture globally. We do that by doing something very simple that nobody else is doing. And by the way, we have proof of concept at a micro level for the past 14 years. We help end rape culture by showing you how wonderful great consensual communicative sex is in the real world. Our social sex videos role model good sexual values and good sexual behavior. And here's the key part: we make all of that aspirational. One young man wrote to us saying, "Your website makes me want to have sex in a more grown-up, honest, and respectful way." Another man left a comment saying, "This video makes me want to be a better man in the bedroom and in life." We can achieve that. But if you look at what's in the Epstein files, you realize there are a lot of men out there with a lot of money who have no interest in helping to end rape culture. That's my challenge. That is why, I yearn for women investors, but there are far fewer of them because we don't have the assets. And B, I need women and right-minded men to support me by taking out a subscription at Make Love Not Porn, taking out a membership at the Academy, because I can see how very different the world could be when female founders are funded to scale at the same level that male founders do, because we are the counterpoint, we are the solution. And as long as we are not funded, the world is going to a very dark place.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. We always ask the same question at the end of our Ripple Impact podcasts. So we call our guests wave makers because they're making waves on the industry. And honestly, I say this all the time, but Cindy, this could not be more true of you and the work that you're doing. So the deepest thanks for that. What advice would you give to aspiring wave makers?
Honestly, the single most important thing is don't give a damn what anybody else thinks. Fear of what other people think is the single most paralyzing dynamic in business and in life. You will never own the future care what other people think. So just don't give a damn what anybody else thinks.
I love that. Such beautiful advice. Cindy Gallop, thank you so much for your time today from New York, for sharing such honesty, such bold thinking, such thought-provoking conversations we should be having with our partners, with our friends, with our children. Thank you so much for Make Love Not Porn. Thank you so much for the Academy. It is going to change lives. It's going to change culture. We need everyone to support. I couldn't thank you enough for this conversation. We need more conversations like this. So the deepest thanks for your time today.
I really appreciate that, Laura. Thank you.
Thanks, Cindy. If you're looking to elevate the storytelling of your brand, please get in touch with us at the Ripple Impact. Please check out Make Love Not Porn for such an incredible platform, and please help Cindy and her business. That is a wrap on this Ripple episode. Tune in weekly for more bold voices and inspiring wavemaker guests just like Cindy. I'm Laura Barber. This is the Ripple Impact. We will see you all next week. Thank you so much, Cindy.
Thank you.